Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Steve Farber, who is the founder of Extreme Leadership. Welcome to the program, Steve.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
Hey, so I can't help but to see on your website, and one of your books is called The Radical Leap, and your company is Extreme Leadership, and we've kind of got a little, flow going here of things that aren't the norm. It's going above and beyond. So tell me about radical and extreme and things like that. And what is your focus on?
Yeah, they are provocative words.
Yep.
and they're words that I have to say maybe used a little bit too loosely at times. So extreme leadership, let's start with that. Extreme leadership is really just my way of saying real leadership.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I've noticed, and I've been doing leadership development work in the business world for over 25 years, is leadership is it's not about your position or your title, for one thing. And that's another word that we use if we're not careful, we use it as a label or a title that we slap on ourselves or we slap on other people without giving a lot of significant thought to what it really means. So if we look beyond the title of leader, what we find pretty quickly is that leadership by its nature is extreme. It's going places we've never been. It's stretching and growing our capabilities and those of the people around us. It's taking nothing and turning it into something extraordinary. These are already extreme acts. So extreme leadership is my way of saying real leadership. And it is a radical act. It's a radical act to step up with the intent of changing things for the better, which is ultimately what the extreme leader, a.k.a. real leader, does.
Yeah, all of that presupposes that a leader actually is more than just the person has a title by their name. So what have you found that kind of sets apart some of the leaders, quote unquote, that just have the title and kind of do a couple things and file some reports, to someone that's really an extreme leader? Do you think that there's a trigger that goes off in someone that says, I'm not going to just take this leadership role for granted, I'm going to make it, real? What do you find in that realm?
Well, I think there are a lot of different triggers that get people to really step into their true extreme leadership. And they're going to be different for different people. Sometimes it's motivated by a need in the environment. Sometimes it's motivated by an impulse or an instinct that I have. Sometimes it's motivated by a really compelling picture of the future. There are a lot of reasons that we step up, but I think the key there is that we step up. That's what separates the extreme leader from a leader in position or title alone. So let's just be really clear. If I have the title of CEO, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm actually leading. Yeah, we've all had that experience of working for people that needed a little help in the leadership department, if we're being nice. But the other side of that equation is just as important, if not more so. I can't tell you how many people I've met, Mike, over my 2.5 decades of doing this work that have no positional authority whatsoever. They're nobody's boss, they're nobody's manager, they're nobody's supervisor. They're right there on the front line, they're doing the work, and they're great leaders because they've stepped up, regardless of their position or title, to take on the challenge of changing things for the better. So my work has really been around trying to understand what that looks like and then helping people to grow into that more fully.
So do you think that leadership can be taught or trained, or do you feel that there's just something inside of people that they're just kind of like a born leader, but they need some guidance and polish?
Yeah. So you know what my bias is going to be, seeing as how I'm in the business of leadership training and development.
Yeah, of course, right. But I thought I'd throw it out there anyway.
It's impossible. Actually, it's impossible. Can't learn this shit.
Yep, right. Case closed. What's your next question?
Right. No, but it is, it's a really important question. It's that age-old question: are leaders born or are they made? Right?
Yeah.
And I think we can say with no hesitation that the answer is yes. Or are they made? The answer is yes.
Yep, either way you want to go.
I've never yet met a leader that's not born. So apparently that's a prerequisite. But listen, let's acknowledge that just like anything else, there are people that are more naturally inclined to leadership. I mean, there is such a thing as a natural-born leader, just like there's such a thing as a natural-born musician, mathematician, athlete, whatever. I mean, there are people that come along that have an incredible capacity in a particular area. But that doesn't mean that for the rest of us there's no hope. So anybody, and I strongly believe this, not just because I want to, but because I've seen it over and over again, anybody who has the desire to be a better leader, to have greater influence, to have a bigger impact, to leave a stronger, amazing legacy, anybody can get better at it if they work at it. It involves being, first of all, wanting to do it. It involves getting coaching, getting feedback, studying, just like anything else. And it also involves practice. And practice, by its very nature, means you try something, it doesn't work, and you learn from it, and you try to get better. Same is true for leadership. We got to be willing to screw it up. Yeah. It's not something you decide one day and say, okay, I am now an extreme leader, and I've got it down because I decided to do it. You're going to fall on your face many, many times, and we all do, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's everything right with that. We do it for the right reasons and learn the right lessons from it.
Have you ever heard, he's a born salesman, or have you ever heard the example that, wow, this person is just selling the daylights out of this deal, and so I'm going to go talk to him and see what he does, and you go talk to him, and he's like, I don't know, I just kind of talk to people. And intrinsically, it's just how they do things. Well, do you think that there's some qualities in a leader that sometimes, you can teach this and this and this and kind of polish and hone, but what are some basic foundational blocking and tackling type skills that you think that a leader could just have that really makes a big impact? Kind of like, stop long enough to just talk to your people and don't just, hey, how's it going by? Right? Things like that.
Sure. Yeah. So there is, you just described as the classic unconscious competence. Right? Yeah. I know what I do. I don't know exactly how I do it. Therefore, I can't teach it to you. So, so my job, and anybody that's in my industry and does the kind of work that I do and writes books and speaks and all that, they have the same job. Our job is to do that, is to understand what those things are so we can teach them to other people. So to answer your question, there is, and I don't think I'm exaggerating here, there's probably a list of 2,000 things that the blocking and tackling, as you called it, to be a better leader. So that can be a little bit overwhelming. What I prefer to do, and this is where the radical leap comes into play, is really, first of all, start with the fundamental pillars of this. So when I, having worked with some incredible mentors in this industry and amazing clients and seeing really great leaders and really bad ones and learning a lot from both, of course, it really came down to what is it? What are those elements that really separate the extreme leader from the wannabes or the posers, or even worse, people pretending to lead when we don't really care if they are or not. And it comes down to these 4 elements: love, energy, audacity, and proof. That's the radical leap. Love, energy, audacity, and proof. Cultivate love, generate energy, inspire audacity, provide proof are the fundamental, it's the framework for what great leadership is, or what I call extreme leadership. And as you know, as you can tell, just from hearing that list without even starting to explore it, there's one word in particular that tends to jump out at most people as being a bit, shall we say, unusual in the context of business. Yeah. Yeah. We get very squirmy around that word in a business context. We don't get squirmy around that word in any other context. In fact, we're pretty clear that we want to love our significant other. We want them to love us. We want to love our kids. We want them to love us. We want to love our friends. We want them to love us. We want to love our life. We want to love the things that we do. We want to love everywhere, and then we go to work and it no longer applies. It doesn't make any sense. So probably the most significant thing that I've learned, that I've seen, and that I help people to understand is that love is just damn good business. To say that love has no place in business or in leadership is really it's pretty much insane. And I can make the business case for this in probably 30 seconds.
Go.
Would you like me to?
Take 45 seconds if you want.
Okay, so it's very simple. As business people, as entrepreneurs, our competitive advantage comes from our clients or customers loving what we produce for them. It doesn't. The competitive advantage does not come from them being satisfied with it. There's virtually no correlation between customer satisfaction and repeat business, loyalty, word of mouth, etc. When they love what we do for them, love the product, the service, or the combination of the two, that's where all the good stuff comes from. It's where the money comes from, and that's where the buzz factor comes from, and it's where the loyalty comes from. Right? I mean, we all know that as business people. So if we start with that premise, the only way to create that kind of experience for customers in a meaningful and sustainable way over time is to create an environment, whether that's a team of a small company or the culture of a big company, to create an environment that people love working in. Because that's when they bring themselves fully into their work. That's where all the engagement studies and all that come into play, right? And the only way to create that kind of environment as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a leader, is if I have that myself first. If I don't have the love for the business first, I can't create the environment, and that's not going to translate to our customers. So to say that love has no place in business is nuts. It's very short-sighted. It's just damn good business. Ultimately, our customers are going to have that experience from us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm reading through for the second time Napoleon Hill's 16 Laws of Success, and I'm on the chapter literally as we speak on talking about enthusiasm. And it's the same kind of concept as what you're saying. It's not love, but the point is when you are enthusiastic about your business, your service, that just transcends what you're doing with these customers and employees, and they feel it, they pick up on it. And so the same thing can be said for love. It's not run into your employees and hug them every 10 minutes, but maybe it's having empathy for their situation. Maybe when you hear something happen to them personally, maybe it's more than just, tough times, my thoughts are with you. Maybe you buy them a plant, or maybe you give them a half a day off. So I really do agree with that 1,000%. Do you find when you are working with clients that there's some kind of the 30,000-foot view, of course, but then what are some of the granular tactical things that you would recommend to kind of exemplify that?
Yeah. So I've got a couple of ideas along those lines, certainly. But first of all, enthusiasm, I would put in the category more of energy, right?
Yeah.
But they are very closely related. So the way it ties together is it's really all rooted in love. So you could say that love generates energy, inspires audacity, and requires proof. That's another way that we can look at the LEAP framework. So you're right. There's a very strong correlation between loving this place, loving what we do, and my enthusiasm for it, right? Very closely related. So in terms of what does it look like, the real question, as business people that we got to ask ourselves is, how do we operationalize this stuff, right? So what does it look like in the way that we do business? And this is a question that I ask people all the time and do it with great curiosity, and it's really amazing to see what people come up with. And the question is, what does love look like in the way you do business? And so it can be as simple as you said, buying somebody a plant. It could be as simple as giving somebody more flexibility over their work. It could be as simple as writing a personal note of thanks to somebody on your team or to a customer, as opposed to just sending an email or giving them a pat on the back, which is also nice. It could be, again, there's probably thousands of things that we can do. So what I know about any of these things is that it has to be real. It has to be authentic. And that's the part that oftentimes we skip over. It's like, okay, well, what are the things that I can do to show these people that I love them even though I don't? Right? And that's not the point.
Yep.
The point is to really love them, right? So here's the starting point. And it starts not so much with a list of things to do, but a question, and ultimately a series of questions to ask ourselves and the people around us. So the first question, which has to do directly with this idea of cultivating love, is to ask yourself, why do I love this business? Just start there, or this team, or these customers. You pick the context, right? Why do I love this business, and how do I show it? Or how can I show it better? Or another way of approaching it is, what do I love about this business? And I just want to acknowledge that some days that question is easier to answer than other days, right? And particularly, as entrepreneurs, we understand this. Some days, you jump out of bed in the morning and say, let me have at it. It's like for me, today's, we're having a conversation. Today is Friday, and so what? It could be Friday, It could be Saturday, it could be Sunday. I never stop, right?
Yeah.
But there are also days where it's not so easy to answer that question. It's not, why do I love this business? It's more like, why the hell did I sign up for this?
Yeah, it's like, how can I just get through the day?
How can I get through the day? And because really all I want to do is get back to bed. What's the quickest point from this moment to getting back to bed? Right? So, so we've all had days like that because we're all human beings. So here's the thing. The more difficult it is to answer that question, why do I love this business, the more important it is to answer that question. Because it's designed to help you flip your own switch, stoke your own fire, and inspire yourself, whatever metaphor works best for you. It's designed to help you rekindle your own flame about what you're doing, because everything else grows out of that. If that's really there, if I'm really clear as to why I love my team, for example, I'll find lots of ways to let them know. But I have to let them know. It's not enough for me to have that feeling. If you work for me, Mike, and I really love the fact that you did, and every time if we work in an office together, and every time I see you walk in, I'm like happy that you're there. That doesn't do you any good unless you know it, unless I show you in some way. So,
and to your point about being genuine too, showing it in a genuine way, not just a trite, cliche way.
Yeah, exactly. So where I've landed on this whole, how do I operationalize it? How do we show it? Where I've landed on that is that's actually not the place to start, because in my experience, and I've done this many times in ages long ago, I give people a list. Here you go. Here's the 100 things that you can do to be a better leader starting tomorrow. And what I've noticed tends to happen is that people don't do it.
Yeah.
I know that's a shock, but they don't. And I think the reason they don't is because it's not because they don't want to. It's because they already have so much shit to do that if you give me another list of things that I have to do to be a better leader on top of everything else that I have to do, then I get the impression that I don't have time for it.
Yep. It's like I find myself, they say in marketing, use numbers, like the 10 most blah, 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 or the 7 most. And I find myself when I see those, 172 ways to, I'm like, forget that. But the one that says 6 ways to whatever, I'm like, okay, I'll read that. I got the time for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge point that you make.
Yeah, and what I found is that no matter how many items are on that list, whether it's 3 or 300, it gives the wrong impression. And that impression is that to be a great leader, there are all these other things that I have to do in addition to the stuff that I already have to do. And in some cases that may be true, but ultimately it's not about doing a bunch more stuff. It's about thinking about things differently first. So that's why I like to start with those kinds of questions, like, why do I love my work? And what is it that we're really trying to do here? What's the higher meaning and purpose of our business? There are lots of really good kind of reflective questions that leaders should ask themselves, because they give rise to all those behaviors that other people will experience from us. And ultimately that's what has to happen. People have to experience love and not just have some vague idea that you feel that way.
Yeah, it wasn't a box you ticked off on today's to-do list.
Exactly.
Well, I think we could keep on going for about 4.5 more hours, but let's wrap it up with what's the best way that people can learn more about you, your books, your speaking, and just reach out and connect with you.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. SteveFarber.com is the place where I live online. I mean, I'm also, on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all that. Everything is Steve Farber. If you can remember my name, you can find me. But also at SteveFarber.com, I have an audio series, a free audio series that I get really great feedback on. So I'd encourage people to check that out. And we just relaunched the site in December. I'm getting a lot of good feedback on it. So lots of really good content, videos, audios, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's a really clean, crisp-looking site. It's beautiful. So I will make sure to put that direct link in the show notes. And Steve, thank you so much for your time. It was wonderful getting to know you, and I love your energy, passion, and approach to leadership.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.